I'm Mohammed Sami. I'm a research fellow at Tabah Foundation, a research institution based in Cairo, Egypt, and I'm also an associate member of Oxford's Faculty of Theology and Religion. I'm an academic philosopher and theologian, so I work at the intersection of philosophy and theology. And I think my work revolves around three main questions, those of authenticity, authority, and autonomy. I think as humans, one thing we strive for is having an authentic lives, having our lives shaped by our own motivations, our own interests, our own desires. And we also like to make sure that we have reasoned and reasonable beliefs, and that our practices are ones that are reasonable, ones that we arrive at independently. But I also think this is not the case in the real world. I think our attitudes to life, our practices and beliefs are very much shaped by our societies, and I think importantly by technology, including and even especially AI. So this is where my work intersects with questions around artificial intelligence. I think the presence of AI is making people recognize that these questions are not just academic concerns for people living in their own academic ivory towers, but questions that are important for the way we live our lives, raise our children, and so on. So I think this is where my research on AI come together. I think in my own theological perspective, human existence and human responsiveness and responsibility are inseparable. We exist in the world in order to encounter God, and by encountering God, we encounter truth, we encounter goodness, we encounter beauty, and there's something in us that responds to that, is something unavoidable in us. Once we start thinking about those things, we start thinking about, we think about truth, so we think about reason and reasonableness. We think about the good, we think about community and friendship. We think about beauty, so we think about pleasure and desires and things like that. And I think through one's theological commitment, at least mine, certain ends or goods to be pursued in life are determined. And based on these ends and goods, I think the means will have to be determined as well. My thinking about AI as a tool or as an instrument is always subordinated to my substantive value commitments. And I think this ends up shaping the way I respond to developments in AI. I think being here with lawyers, with practitioners, people from the technology, the tech industry or the AI industry, I think it helps one recognize that if the academic work and theorization is to have any resonance outside the community of 15 people who are interested in your work, if you're lucky, I think we have to take things into consideration that I wasn't thinking about before. So I think voicing my views in the presence of someone who's watching and who's saying, no, this doesn't hold water when it comes to practice, I think this has been extremely enlightening. So many of the values that we're trying to get practitioners to be committed to are ones that require interpretation and specification and so on. And if we get to formulate an oath that resonates with practitioners, then this tells us which values need to be substantiated more, which questions need to be addressed, and so on. So I think it helps one tighten their research agenda and make sure their own research interests, again, are not just academic interests and pursuits, but ones that it helps you recognize what can resonate in the world and what might be, I wouldn't say a waste of time, but maybe could be moved to a less priority kind of position on the list. I think there are three main things that I would like to see in an oath. One is a recognition that, again, human existence and responsibility are inseparable, which means that aspiring for a world where humans are free of work and free of responsibility is not the right thing we should be aspiring for. Another thing I want to see is some kind of a special form of corporate social responsibility where people working in AI who are disproportionately benefiting from the development in the technology recognize that they have a special responsibility towards the world because of that. And the third thing I'd like to see is a commitment from people involved in the AI world to resisting attempts to manipulate people, to play with people's desires and preferences for the sake of purely economic and political gains.